Hello, and thank you for listening in to CLDF Chatter.
To give you a quick overview, CLDF is a national charity which supports families whose child has a childhood liver disease, and as part of the charity we have a young people's service which provides support to 11 to 24-year-olds living with a liver condition. The Young People's Service has an online group called Hive and Hive Plus on Facebook, which enables members to connect online and share experiences.
I am the Young People's Digital Engagement Officer at CLDF. Today we would like to give a warm welcome to Leo, who would like to share their liver journey with you. Leo is heavily involved with CLDF Young People's Service and would love to share their story and the benefits of meeting others with a liver condition. So Leo, do you want to tell us about yourself?
I'm Leo. I'm 16 and I was born with biliary atresia. I also have portal hypertension and I was diagnosed with it, I think, 2 weeks after I was born.
Okay, so you've had it obviously pretty much all your life then, and we'll explore that because obviously you would have had to go through childhood and now obviously your teen years and entering early adulthood. So today we'll obviously explore your liver journey. So I just want to ask you, you knew you had a liver condition from an early age. However, do you remember what age you were when you could start to understand it?
Probably near the end of primary school, so around 8 or 9, I started getting curious and I'd just be like, hey, Dad, I don't actually know what this condition is. Like, you say I have it, but I never knew. So he'd normally sit there for hours when I asked questions and draw little pictures of like, other people's bodies and then like mine and how it's different.
Obviously, pictures must have helped at that age then to try and explain what was going on inside and maybe the difference between like a fully functioning liver to one obviously that has a condition. I mean, what's your understanding of it now?
Still don't understand it that well, but I know they found out I had like blocked bile ducts and they found out I had cirrhosis on my liver and had to remove my gallbladder in order for me to survive. So that's like Kasai treatment. And I'm still only Kasai now. So yeah, it's not much to explain really, other than like the side parts to having it.
And on your opinion, like, is that a good thing that you don't remember it, or has it been quite challenging?
I think it's good because now that I have like the yearly endoscopies and the other things that I have, I kind of wish I didn't know how that felt because it's nice you don't remember the pain, so it's not like anything to be like, I would never want that again.
Yeah. Whereas now you have more of an understanding of what the procedures are like because you've had to have, like you say, occasional endoscopies. Yeah. How often are you having endoscopies?
It's normally every year, but if I need banding, they sometimes move it to every 6 months. I think the shortest amount of time I've had to wait is 6 months. Yeah, I think the longest I've been without one is 2 years as well. So it depends.
Well, thank you for sharing. We will explore obviously a bit about like your journey maybe from being a baby up until now. So you can obviously talk about that a little bit more. When you were a baby, and obviously, like you say, you don't really remember it, is there anything that's helped you to remember it? Like, have you seen any photos of yourself?
I have one photo where I look slightly yellow. There's also another photo where I have like the I don't know what they're called, but they're like the sticky circles. There's a picture of me with those on.
So when you see photos of yourself like that as a baby, what are the thoughts that go through your head?
Not much. I don't really think much of it because
do you find it hard to associate because obviously like you say, you don't remember that part? Only because a lot of the young people that I've supported say that, like the ones that obviously have been diagnosed at a baby, they say that it almost feels like their parents' story to start with because they don't remember it. So it's like their parents' journey, their parents' documentation of the photos. And I guess it helps you to kind of reflect back what they had to witness and see. But like you say, you don't remember it, do you? So it's been a bit of a learning journey for you, I'd imagine. Understanding what your condition's like and obviously growing up with it, and even now you're probably still learning a lot about it. What are the things you've had to learn to manage as you have got older with your health and your condition?
Probably ways to like explain it to people because obviously all my friends, they all know about it now, But it was kind of hard, like in year 7, when suddenly I'd be in hospital and people were like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's normal." But it's like, how do you explain it without making it sound so dramatic? But how do you also just bring that up when you meet someone? Hey, by the way.
Do you tend to tell people about it, or do you tend to like tell people when you feel more comfortable getting to know them?
I only really tell like close people, and obviously if someone notices like my scar or something and they ask, like, I'm happy to tell people. But it's just whether people actually want to listen, because it's like I don't want to just tell them that and then they're like, okay. But yeah, I don't mind telling people. I think it's just kind of hard to tell people without them thinking it's 10 times worse than it is, because it sounds 10 times worse, but it doesn't affect me daily like that.
Your health, I'd imagine, has been quite stable since, so
yeah, I've got pretty lucky with like my liver, because I think there was like 2 times they almost said that I would need a transplant, and so far I've been okay.
Yeah. I mean, what's it been like for you when things have been a bit bumpy and they've said like, oh, you might need a transplant? What goes through your mind then?
Most of it happened when I was quite young. There was one time I remember where I think during an endoscopy a band slipped and I got really ill from that. That was terrifying. I think most recently is probably with them finding nodules on my liver, and not knowing, like I'm still waiting for the results from my biopsy.
So again, obviously it's that weight, isn't it? And just kind of processing, obviously, like what could be and what might not be. So it's always the unknown, isn't it? I mean, have you found a way to manage that like feeling of the unknown? And
no, I think it's just gotten to the point where you can kind of forget about it, and just it's annoying to wait, but it will happen someday, like probably in a week or something. It just feels like it drags on.
Yeah. Do you like do anything to take your mind off things when it becomes like a bit of a waiting game to find out a result?
The main thing I do is I go to annoy my mom and ask her if she's heard anything. That's my first step. I don't know if I really do anything to distract myself, but when I'm normally like upset or worried, I normally just play something or listen to music. So I guess it's the same for that.
If there's ever time where you're feeling overwhelmed by it or you worry about it, like do you tend to talk about it with your mum, or do you find it hard to kind of talk about things?
Every now and then I do. It's just there's not much to say, because it's always like, well, she can't do anything. She can't get them to hurry up. There's no point really. But if I need to, sometimes I do. I mean, normally I'm not very good at hiding it, so I have to anyway.
Oh, right, yeah. Like someone will know there's something off. It's about them and you like getting through that time, isn't it? A lot of the young people that are on Hive and the young people that we support, like they do all say like waiting for results or waiting for a decision or waiting to know what's next can be probably one of the hardest bits of having a liver condition, because it's like you just want an answer sometimes to what's going on in your body, but obviously you will get an answer eventually, but it's just that waiting time, isn't it? And I don't know if that's something that you relate to as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think when it's something so like, for me right now, I'm waiting to see if I have like liver cancer. So it sounds more serious, but like it can be treated because it's been caught early. But it's just waiting, because if I do have it, then I'm being put on a transplant list, and having a liver transplant is probably like one of my biggest fears, because I know it's going to happen one day. So I think it's just like waiting to know whether that's what I'm going to have to wait for next, or if it's just okay for a bit.
It's just waiting, isn't it? And it is a really hard time, and I can understand that's why it's quite a worrying time as well. You're obviously really well connected with our charity and the young people as well, and you've made some good friends, haven't you, through some of the trips that you've taken part in?
Yeah.
Would you ever reach out to those young people if you just needed a chat?
I occasionally reach out to one of them, because obviously if I ever like post something, you can see like the hospital in the background. I only post it so people who know can see it, so then people don't freak out. But if like someone who I talk to a lot sees it, they'll be like, "Hey, you okay?" Like, because they know that there's going to be a reason why I'm in hospital. It's normally through my liver.
Yeah.
So sometimes I talk to people about that. But then my friends who also don't have a liver illness, they've been really supportive recently. Like when I had my biopsy, they were just constantly like, "You better update me."
Yeah, lots of people obviously wanting to find out just as much as you.
Yeah.
It's good because it shows people really do care, and obviously they're there for you when you need them. It's the same for us. Obviously, you're more than welcome to message us whenever you need that conversation. And I am hoping that you get the results soon, just so you can know as well.
Should be any day now.
You'll have to keep us updated if you are happy to. Obviously, this has all happened quite recently for you. Would you say this is probably the bumpiest time of your journey so far, or has there ever been another time where this popped up before?
I think the first time was worse because the first time there was already a lot going on in my life, and just as COVID had started as well, it was just as everyone went into lockdown. The day that the hospital phoned and said that I had to be shielded, I got back from my nan's because obviously I got out of school early, but both my parents were working. So I went over to my nan's house and my dad picked me up and he was like, "We need to talk when you're home." Obviously, I'm freaking out. And obviously you hear the word cancer and you're like, oh my God. So I think it was more scary the first time because I didn't really understand it as much. And that was the first time I had a biopsy since I was a baby. And then it was the first time I had an MRI scan and it was just all very new and I didn't like it.
Yeah. How old was you when that happened?
12,
About 12.
13. Because it was when lockdown just started, so it was 2020.
How was it, like the MRI scan and things like that? Obviously, at the time, I can imagine it's quite daunting because you'd never done it before, but now you have done it. What's your opinion on it?
First time I had it, it was not too bad. Obviously, it was freaky because I didn't know what was going on and it was really loud. I think it was the second time I had a bad experience because they told me it was only going to be like half an hour, and then I think it dragged on to an hour, and I was like, can I get up here? It's very different how they do it each time because the first two times it was like just sit in there, you have some music, and then they'll interrupt it. But then the most recent time I had one, they obviously injected dye into me, and they had like this flip mirror, which meant my mum could sit in the room, I could see her, but I could also watch the TV. They were gonna put Guardians of the Galaxy on. They forgot to actually start it, so we were on the menu for like 20 minutes. So I think the most recent time was less stressful and less worrying because I knew what's happening. But it was definitely terrifying the first time because it's just this big, loud machine.
Being so young as well, it's quite daunting, isn't it? But they do obviously, like you say, have ways to try and distract you.
Yeah, I mean, I think most hospitals would have it where like there would be some kind of way for you to be able to calm down, but they also have like either way, they always have a button you can press if you get really stressed out, or you can just sit out of it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
So either way, it's like, and it's literally just lying there and having to breathe in and out. It's actually not that bad.
I think it's like you say, it's just that the noise, as people say, isn't it? And they describe that noise as being quite like,
I think it's just more uncomfortable and loud than like it's not painful or anything. So
have you ever had it that you've had like music in there?
Yeah, it was just really bad radio music. That they kept interrupting.
Not your playlist then.
No. They said to me, like when they told me I needed an MRI, oh, you can pick the music, and they're like, do you want music? Yeah, sure. And they put Ariana Grande on. I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
Not my thing, but okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'll learn to live with it for now.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take that rather than nothing. So, but no, thank you for sharing, because like that's something as well that a lot of people haven't or might need to experience. So it seems like on and off throughout your liver journey, like you've had some stable parts and then you've had bits where actually there's more further investigation needed. And luckily in the past, it's never really been an issue. Like you say, you've had the Kasai and you've never needed transplant just yet. So that's really positive. Yeah. But while you were also going through this, like, we're not forgetting that you obviously had to do school. So how was school managing your health? Have you got any tips for young people that are listening?
One thing I did do, I would email my tutor if I had like an endoscopy or something coming up and just being like, can you let my teachers know that my homework might be late or I might be behind on some lessons? And they can't do much because at the end of the day, if you're like probably past year 9 or year 10, it's like, this is GCSE stuff, so you have to catch up with it. But I think it makes them a little more understanding because otherwise you get back and they're like, you need to do your homework, you need to do this, you're really behind on this. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good tip for if you're like stressing out homework and stuff, because they need to be understanding. One thing that did annoy me though was in school was if I did have like hospital appointments or operations, it was always like a few days or like 2 days, 3 days max. And obviously they keep track of attendance and they seem to not understand that I couldn't help it. So then I would never have 100% attendance and they would give out good things to people who had 100%, like Amazon gift card, like £50. And I was like, I want that. I go in every day, but because I have operations, I can't.
Yeah, you
That really
can't get that
frustrated me.
reward. Yeah, even though
I
there's
remember
nothing
complaining
you can
about
do
it.
about that. Yeah, because you need to go to your appointments. You're not the first one that's ever said that in terms of the reward schemes at schools, because it is unfair a little bit
It
in terms
is.
of the way that it's pulled off the system almost. Because I think it's one of them where they just look at the system and go, look, all these children have got above 95% attendance, if not 100. And actually, young people who have a liver condition have lots of appointments and, like you say, procedures that they need to factor into their like school life. So actually the system's always going to say you're missing a certain level of attendance, which actually you can't not go to those appointments. So really it's a shame that school don't recognize and just mark it as actually that young person should be entitled to a reward, because technically like they have to go and look after their health. And then you've still managed to achieve to attend every day at school as well while that's been going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've tried to complain about it so many times. I've been like not even in like a harsh way. I've just gone up to them and I've been like, you do realize I can't get 100% attendance, right? And they're like, yeah, we can't really change that. In primary school, like they let me off like a few times. They were like, oh, I guess it's not your fault. But in secondary school, they were just like I even put it on. We had like a survey about attendance, and then they were like, is there anything you want to add? And I was like, stop taking people's attendance off because they have hospital appointments. And they put it on the assembly after. And like the teacher looked at me and I gave him this dirty look because he knows.
Yeah, that it's come from yourself.
I like this teacher, but it was just so annoying. I was like, why can't I?
Yeah, well, it is a frustration. And there's been times where I spoke to some other young people, for instance, and a school trip, like they've not been able to go on it because they didn't get enough attendance. And that can feel quite isolating because, the fact that you're already missing school, which you might not want to miss. A lot of young people want to be in school, like they want to see their friends, they don't want to miss out. So when you actually have to take the time out to go to a hospital appointment, which is not the most fun day out, is it? It's not like you're going on holiday. Yeah, when you actually can't join in the activities that they put on as a reward, that's quite isolating. And I think that's why when you meet other young people online through CLDF and you see the other young people, like they understand that because a lot of them have had that treatment as well. What did you do that day that they went on a trip?
I think it was a normal school day for everyone else.
Oh, really?
Just sitting in school.
Yeah. And what did your like parents say about that?
Well, this was more in primary school where they did trips and stuff. And I think there was one I got to go on and we went to Krispy Kreme's or something. We got to make our own donuts. That was fun. But like, yeah, and that was only because my parents eventually complained because like it wasn't there. And if it's like nice things like that, especially in primary school, and that would have been fun to me. I was like, they also did a thing where they hired like a bouncy castle at the end of the year if you had 100%. Every year I had to like fight for it.
Yeah, to get on that, yeah, and join in. And it's quite hard, isn't it, really? Because at the end of the day, like reflecting back at that age, you were so little. And when you look at the mindset of a child who might be like 6 or 5, try and tell them that they can't go on a bouncy castle. It looks the most funniest thing in the world. That's really hard, isn't it? And it's a fight that shouldn't really be needed. You never know, Leo, your podcast might stem out to, national schools.
Hopefully.
You just tag all the schools in there, like, listen, or let's change
I
this.
would actually love that.
Make a little campaign. It does baffle me why nothing's really changed around it yet. And I guess it's one thing that actually is quite important to some of like young people who have a liver condition is don't isolate us when it comes to rewards in education and how much you've been there, because actually you've probably been there every day. The only days you weren't there was, when you're out for hospital visits or appointments, or actually unwell because you need to take time off to get better.
Yeah, because like obviously if I have like appointments, my mum would bring in the letter to like prove that's why I need to be off school. And so it's not as if I'm just lying or like taking more time in hospital to get off of school. It's like I need to be there. It says how long I need to be there for.
Yeah.
And if I'm like a few days later, it's because I'm recovering. So it's like
exactly.
I think they should change that.
There's lots of members on Hive, I'm sure, that would back it up.
Yeah.
And want change for it, because it's a big element of actually school life for young people, because you don't ask for the health condition. It's something that you're either born with or it's developed in childhood. And then you also have to manage that. Like you say, you have to do procedures that you might fear or feel uncomfortable with. And then on top of that, deal with all the homework that you've managed to backlog yourself with.
Yeah.
So work extra hard basically and try and keep up with it, which I think is why a massive element of some of the young people's journeys I've spoken to is like looking after your mental health, because it can be such like a minefield as well. Like, I mean, have you got anything to say about that?
I think overall it doesn't really affect me that much, but when it's like hospital trips and stuff, it does just make me feel like if I didn't have this illness, I wouldn't have to go through this. And it's just like, it feels unfair. So I think that does get me down quite a lot. And I've definitely spoken to some of my friends about it because they've been like, are you okay? I'm like, well, no, not really.
Yeah.
I'm fed up of this now. I kind of just wish it wasn't here, but
that's it. And I think that's probably a normal way to think as well, like, because everybody's probably going to think at some point, why me? Like, why have I got to do this?
Yeah.
But there is a lot of support and help. And I think that's something that the hospitals are very good at, that if you found it that it was happening all the time, then you can actually get support through them. Another coping mechanism that people tend to use is obviously reaching out to peers, either like through school peers or, the fact that you've met some young people online through the charity. Like, do you think it's helped you that you have met other young people with a liver condition?
I think it's helped feel less alone, because I remember like on social media and stuff, I'd always put like in my bio that I have biliary atresia, because I don't know anyone with biliary atresia, but it would be nice to find someone. But even just having someone with a liver illness who you can talk about it, but you can also joke about it with, it's nice. And also like it's nice when you're in hospital and it's not like, oh my God, are you okay? It's like, oh, what's this now?
Yeah.
It's like more casual and it's less like panicking people. It's more like they understand more as well when you explain it, and it's a lot nicer. And yeah.
In the past, you've been on residential, haven't you, with the charity? You actually got to meet young people face to face. What was that experience like?
Oh, I've actually had a friend who's with CLDF who I've known since I was little. Like we don't really talk that much, but I know someone who like we've kind of grown up together in a way. We used to call like weekly and like talk about our liver illness, so that was nice. But more recently, when I went on the breakaway, obviously the younger ones I didn't really talk to, but I did meet like all the people who were in my room, which was all the other girls. It was like we got on really quickly, and I don't think I would have ever got on with them if we didn't all have the illness, which sounds weird because it doesn't really change anything. But I think just knowing that it's like, oh my gosh, you have one too, it's like nice. And they were really funny, and we don't talk too much now, but at that time when we spoke loads, it made having a liver illness so much more fun, which sounds really weird again, but
yeah,
it made it really fun.
I guess it's because you could have just related to things that you've all kind of been through, but yeah, because they have one as well, they'll know the ins and outs of what it's really like. That residential at the moment doesn't take place, but you, I think, got to do it on the last time it ever took place. So the last cohort, yeah, at the moment. What was it like to actually go on residential after shielding and going through that process for so long?
I think that was just after we started school again. So it was a weird kind of, it was weird because obviously it was just when people were allowed to hug and stuff again. Yeah. And obviously one of the people that I met we'd spoken online so much. So when I saw them in person, I was just like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is amazing.
It's come in conversation before, but people have necessarily like, forgot about. We've just moved on so quickly since COVID for some reason, but it's like impacted so many people's lives, especially obviously like for yourself, who's shielded for so long. And like you say, affection must have been very limited. And you like everybody at one point, you just couldn't go out, but for you it was longer. Actually, to go back into the real world, I mean, it's not really spoken about much anymore. It's literally like, oh, COVID's starting to grow again. Like, be careful, But at the same time, like, we've never really acknowledged the impact of what it really did to people.
I mean, I found a really good way of getting out, which was in May 2020, I think it was. It was in lockdown. Me, my mum, and my brother would go out and do 10K steps a day. We were doing it to raise money for CLDF. We actually made a bit from it, actually.
A positive way to like do something, isn't it?
And it got us out, and we walked in the woods and stuff, which was near me, and people had like little signs up on the trees and stuff to just be like, well done for going out and stuff. And it was just really nice because I feel like everyone kind of, I think everyone kind of got closer because everyone was like, oh, we're stuck inside now.
Yeah.
So
it's one of them, isn't it, that I think still today some people probably still struggle with it a bit, but it's kind of been brushed under the carpet as well. So, and it's getting back to that normal without forgetting what really happened. It is weird to think about now, isn't it? I was thinking, oh yeah, we actually did go what was nearly 2.5 years of being shut in.
Besides the pandemic part, I kind of miss like doing online school and like I don't know, I don't miss it, but it was kind of nice.
Yeah, like a different way to be educated. Yeah. And actually for you, I mean, some of the symptoms with a liver condition, do you get like fatigue? Because some people, like, the only reason I mention it is because they have recognized like fatigue is a symptom that they do get, like they just get tired more regularly, or like you might have done a full day at school and then you come back and you've got no energy. Whereas some people would like want to carry on and go out to play with their friends, and it's like, I am so tired.
Yeah, people in my school would like go to like the gym after school, hang out after school. I'm like, I just want to go home. I literally used to like get out of school and run to my bus stop before anyone asked me to hang out.
Yeah, that's it. And like you mentioned with the education being at home, that would probably work quite well for people that are struggling with fatigue, because it's like, actually, I can get up a bit later and not have to get dressed and get, ready in the morning to get out and catch a bus or, walk to school, whatever it is. It just gives you that bit more time to rest and not get exerted walking around a school with a backpack in the warm heat. Yeah, So
especially when I was on the top floor.
Yeah, exactly. It's times like that, isn't it? When you think, actually climbing all those steps when I can actually just sit comfortably on my sofa and learn. So yeah, it's been a bit of a bumpy ride. Like, obviously sometimes, like you say, you've had times where it's been a lot better, but you have always had like challenges along the way. And at the moment, obviously, like you say, you're going through one right now. And even COVID, I'd say, was a bit of a challenge. And then some of the times before where you've obviously had to have more investigations done because of some of the risks that are going on. So what advice would you share to others when things get a bit tough?
I would recommend reaching out to people who actually understand in some way, whether it's like other people from who have liver illnesses, or like even like the people who run the charity. So like you, for example. And if you don't have anyone like that, then try to get involved with like CLDF before anything bad happens. Maybe just don't look up procedures and what happens in them, because that will just make you panic more.
Yeah, some things on the internet are pretty scary, aren't they? And
they're like exaggerated. If you can ask people who've already had experience, definitely do that. But I think the problem is some people have different pain tolerances. So if like someone asks me, oh, does an endoscopy hurt? Yes, a lot. But if you ask someone else, they might be like, it's not that bad. I'm like,
people have, like you say, different experiences, don't they? So it's hard to judge. Like, when you found things a bit fearful or a bit scary, like, have you ever said to like staff in a hospital, like, I'm actually feeling quite nervous about this? Or have you been open with staff in a hospital?
Not like, I haven't brought them over and been like, hey, I'm really nervous. Normally they take me down in the bed to like theatre. This time they made me walk there, and they were like, okay, just sit on this bed. And I sat there and I just curled up in a ball. I don't know why, but you know the numbing, well, you probably don't, but they put numbing cream on your hand to put the cannula in. I hate the feeling of numbing cream, so as soon as they take it off, I just start bursting out in tears. So I think I make it very obvious when I'm nervous.
Yeah, like they know, they can probably tell from your body language and how you're feeling. That's like a representation of what you just said. Like people have different experiences. So some people would like love the numbing cream because it helps with the pain, but you're like, for you hate it. So
like when I've had blood tests and stuff, they've like tried to put the spray on, and there was one time they almost put it on and my mum was like, don't. Just I don't know, it's the feeling of the like the numbing. I would just rather them just stick the needle in and I'll deal with the pain later.
See, that's it. It's different perspectives, isn't it? I mean, have you ever like been put to sleep for any procedure?
Yeah. All my endoscopies I have and my biopsies I've been put to sleep, and that's the worst bit for me.
Is there a way that that's managed, or like is it quite stressful?
Normally, so I can't go to sleep with the mask. So they try and do the cannula, but if they can't do the cannula, well, for a while they were doing the pre-meds, but that's even worse sometimes because it normally makes me feel more sick after the taste of it. The first time I had it, it was all right. But then when I know what happens after, it's like I freak out and it tastes horrible. So I stopped the pre-meds for a bit and now it's just the cannula I'm on. I think the worst part for me when I go to sleep is I know what, like, especially my endoscopy, I know what the pain's like after. And I know that as soon as I get put to sleep, I'm going to just wake up and just be in pain.
In pain, yeah. I think that's the difference, isn't it? Like you say, between different tolerances, because you obviously feel a lot of pain after them, but other people I've spoken to, it's like, oh yeah, it was really positive. I didn't get much pain from it. Like it's just like you say, different pain thresholds as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it depends because obviously with my biopsy that was really painful, but I've only had like 2 of those that I remember. But with my endoscopy, I've had it so many times where I know exactly what it feels like, which I think kind of makes it easier because it's not that bad. It's more just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it hurts to eat, but with putting you to sleep, it really depends who you have, but sometimes they have things to distract you.
It's whatever works, isn't it? At least, like you say, they're trying. And that's been at the children's hospital, hasn't it, for you? So
yeah, I have no idea what it's going to be like when I go to the adults hospital because I have an endoscopy next month. That's my last one before I get transferred to the adult hospital.
I mean, I've had a lot of young people that do transition to like an adult hospital, like you say, and they'll explain like the differences in procedures, but sometimes obviously as an adult you don't need numbing cream, so that might be a benefit to you.
Oh, it might be.
I was gonna say, like, it's very popular in the children's, but in the adults it's like, here's your needle. That's
I hated it.
So, yeah.
When I went to the A&E recently, they were like, okay, we're just gonna put numbing cream on. They didn't even ask me. They're like, oh, we're just gonna put it on. Okay, why?
I was gonna say, if you actually didn't want it, you can request like, I don't want that. I'd rather have it without, if that's okay.
I assumed I had to, but yeah, they put it in like in an elbow, both of them, and then in my hand, and I was like, this is horrible.
Yeah. And like you say, it's just a learning journey because obviously, like you say, oh, I thought I had to have that. Whereas some young people in like other hospitals, they don't need the numbing cream because they can actually handle like a needle okay. Like they're not too fearful of it. It doesn't cause them too much pain. Like from my experience when I've visited, some young people haven't had numbing cream. They've just done the cannula, done it, took the blood, out they go.
Yeah.
Then there's other young people that obviously they rely on the numbing cream because it's like, I need that because it makes things easier for me. It's not as stressful. So yeah,
it does make it easier.
Yeah. You can request, like actually I want the numbing cream or I don't want the numbing cream. Like that's to you and your care. And obviously they'll give you advice on it for you to make a decision. That is one of the changes in adults, is that in adults there's that expectation that can you go ahead without having numbing cream? Most people do. So that's one of the options. But if you still struggled and you needed numbing cream, it's not to say they wouldn't give it you. It's just about you letting them know. That's one of the things. But during your journey of going into adults anyway, like we'll have time if you want to have a chat to talk about the difference between children and adults. You're the one that they'll address because it's your health and your care. You're still allowed a parent, but it's your choice if you want people in the room with you, whether you want to have that, appointment by yourself because you're of an age where you can actually start to look after your own health and make decisions for yourself.
Yeah, that's one thing that's really weird is like, obviously when I was in hospital, I had someone come over and they were like, oh, we'd like to take a sample of your liver, but obviously your mum can't do it now. But I had to sign it all, and I was like, and they're giving me all these choices, and I'm like, I don't want to decide.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's like a slow journey of getting used to that. I wouldn't fear adults because there's a process to it. So it's not like you're just chucked in the deep end. It's like, it should be a step-by-step process, which is your pace as well. So they will obviously encourage you to like progress into like what a young adult will be doing in terms of decision making, but like that's not to say you can't have somebody with you or you can't discuss your care with your parent or a friend, before. You're on your summer break now. You'd obviously handled your health through your primary school journey and into high school, but I mean recently, I know you've mentioned at the moment you're waiting on some results, but I'd imagine your summer break's been quite a relief because you were technically doing your GCSEs while there was some kind of like investigation into your health. So like how was that when you were completing your GCSEs? How did they go?
I mean, I think the problem is I had so many mocks before and I had so much, obviously you do school for so long. So when it got to my GCSEs, I was so unmotivated. Like I would literally revise the day before. And some I would be like, you know what, I'm just gonna wing it. And that was probably the worst idea. So I'm so worried about my results and get them in like 10 days. Yeah, it was hard. It's not as scary as you think. Like I thought it was gonna be like every exam, I'm like panicking. It's not actually that scary and it's not as hard as you think. I think it's just knowing what to revise and how. My brain just kept telling me like, how am I gonna remember all this? How's my brain gonna fit all this in? When it does, it's just I didn't believe it did. So I was like, oh, it'll be fine. It's not possible for me to do this.
I was going to say, when you get to that point, you're like, actually, I've got how many subjects, how many exam papers to sit? Like, has my brain got capacity for all this knowledge as well as what else is going on in my mind at the moment with my health? That's something that's quite unique to obviously your people with liver conditions is you've always got something else, not just education. There's that little bit in you as well, still focusing on something external than just school. You kind of have acknowledged it that you just kind of had to believe in yourself to think, actually, I've studied this for a full year, if not longer, and can I just get the information down on the paper on the day? Like a bit of revision the day before is a bonus. It's quite hard, isn't it? Because actually, like from experience of other young people, some people like revise solidly, but then panic and then, like stress that much that the exam can seem very daunting. And then do they actually do better or worse because of that situation? Or you've kind of gone, I'm going to refresh my mind and walk in and just see if I can do my best. It's like another waiting journey, isn't it? You just got to wait for your results. So
I think like, well, I'm hoping at least if the biopsy results are not great, hoping I at least get that like a little bit before my results. Because imagine like the day before, boom, and then like the next day, let's say I didn't do well on my GCSEs, that would not be nice.
No, exactly. Yeah. But, you don't want lots of like you say, like negatives all at one point, do you? Just fingers crossed like you've done well.
Clearly I've got like a plan B kind of anyway. I really want to go into like a health and social T level. And I really want to do that. But if I don't, I'm gonna maybe see if anywhere is gonna take me for an art course and then do art and then maybe hopefully go into being a tattoo artist.
Okay.
Because that doesn't really need GCSEs, but obviously I don't want to be like, oh, I failed, I'll just do something that doesn't need GCSEs. I really enjoy art, so I was like, why not draw on other people?
Yeah, that's it. And it's finding skills that you're good at. And I mean, to reassure you in another way, some young people I've supported, it's been a long journey for them to get a grade that actually, when it comes to looking at their options and what's next or what they want to do, like there's always alternative pathways. So School will drill it into you and say, look, do your GCSEs, then, you know, you can do your A levels, or you can go to college, or you can apprenticeships now, isn't it, really? So they'll give you all those options. But actually, there are additional options to that as well as you get older.
Yeah.
English and maths are like your core subjects. And some people have just had to, like, you know, even though they've gone on to further study, they've just had to do like their maths again while they're studying. Annoying. And they've just had to fit it in. But yeah, they've managed to do it that way. But actually, because you haven't got what could have been like 9 to 10 or 11, 12 or other subjects at the same time, when you're just doing maybe what is a college course and maths, it seems a little bit easier to manage, rather than all the other ones that you had to sit in that exam hall for. Yeah, but don't doubt yourself. Like, obviously, let's just see what you get. Yeah, I mean, well done, because obviously it was a big time in your life as well where you've had to balance, you know, the exams that you're obviously waiting for the results on. But like you say, you're also going through like a bit of a health scare where you're like, actually, I'm getting scanned, and, you know, they've actually been open and honest and said, you know, we're just looking for the potential whether there's cancer there. And that's something massive to have to deal with while you're doing your GCSEs. So I think you should be giving yourself a massive pat on the back. Like, you know, so
it did help. It did interfere with it a little bit, but I think GCSEs is such like a thing everyone makes so big that it's like, oh, we'll just push that aside. But it didn't, luckily I didn't push it aside too much, but I think if I did, it would have just been a whole lot more scary after. So I think you need to kind of balance the two and make time for it.
And at the moment, obviously, you're now on break, so you're on a summer break for a bit, resting and, you know, taking the time out to do what you want and make the most of it, because I'd imagine, obviously, like, you're going to start.
The enrollment day is on the 27th, so I think that's when you go in and you see if you actually get the place.
Oh, okay. So, and then we'll just go from there. But whatever happens, obviously, you know, we're here for you. And there has been times, quite a few times actually, where I sat with people and looked at options and gone, right, there's this avenue. Like, we've sat on the internet having a little search, because it's still part of your liver journey. Because it's like, well, at the end of the day, there's a journey after school, and that's, you know, whether you choose to go to college, apprenticeship, work, or like travel, you still have to factor in the fact that, you know, these are the options available to you. There might be questions about it, like, do I need to tell them about my condition? Or what insurance do I need if I'm traveling? Like, there's so many other questions that you probably need to come back to us for. And that's why we're here. And we'll always sit down and go, actually, like, this is the route you're choosing. How do you feel about it? Do you want to tell them about your condition? Like, it's a good one-to-one discussion. If things don't go as planned, then we're here to, like, help and try and find you another option. And 9 times out of 10, actually, I don't think I've had a young person yet that hasn't been able to find something to carry on with. So there's always another route. Just take a bit of time, that's all. I mean, I've had young people that have, like, had a place for the next best thing for them, and then it's like, oh, actually, it's been delayed slightly, but I need to start it next time or in the next 12 months. And then we've just looked at what they can do in the 12 months while they're up to take some time out. But everybody on the chat understands that. So if ever, fingers crossed, there are lots of people that you can reach out to who will understand that. And you may even find somebody else who's going through that. So, right then. Well, with your story, it's obviously in a peak of it at the moment to find out what's going on. But you know that we're here for you. There's lots of people around you that are here for you. At the moment, in one way, yes, your GCSEs are over, so that's one good thing, really. They're out the way. And there is obviously, like, hopefully you'll get the results soon, and then from there we're here, whatever pathway it goes down. Have you got any advice to others?
The main thing I tell myself is, like, I mean, obviously there's like money and stuff that can get in the way, but if, like, you try hard enough, you can always get what you want in a way. Like, there's nothing really stopping you other than yourself. Like, I feel like even if I had the worst grades, everything was like a grade 1, I failed everything, there would still be something. And even if not, I can retake things. And I think it's just like doing things however you want it and making sure you're comfortable is probably the best way that I handle things. And obviously if you're down, like, this sounds really sad, but I look up to like YouTubers and stuff most of the time. So
yeah,
and I think if my grades are that bad, I might even go to that.
Yeah, there's a new world,
That's
isn't there,
fun.
in social media. Yeah, and there's lots of people out there, isn't there, that people are attracted to, in terms of like, you find somebody online that you might be watching and they have like a message or a commonality that you can relate to, and that's sometimes what gets people by. And I think that, again, like, these podcasts, we do these because actually people want to listen to other people's stories, and this is on YouTube. This is a social platform that people listen to, and some people subscribe and want to hear the next one. Yeah, like podcasts, for instance, they take people's mind off things sometimes, and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna have an hour of my own time and just sit and be like me for a bit.
I've listened to one of the podcasts on here before that my dad sent me, and that was really nice because it was like, I think they had Biliary Atresia as well, and it makes you feel less alone for a little bit, even if you don't know the person. And I kind of want to like make my illness into something that can mean other people who are the same as me can also like learn from, or even like come to me for advice, because I just love to like, so nice to kind of give people advice when you've already done it, because then it's like, you know exactly what it's like, and then you can tell people it's not as bad as you think.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing, like, I mean, obviously we can have a conversation this separately, but I speak to young people who will message me and go, oh, I'm having an endoscopy, but I've never had one of these before, or I'm having an MRI and I don't know what it's like, and the fact that you've now released this in a podcast, obviously it'll be like, well, why don't you have a listen to this, because it's got some good tips in it. Do you know what I mean? And actually we know the person, and if they're happy to, they'll reach out to you and you can have a chat with them. So that's the positives and the powerful thing about this. It kind of turns your journey into something that you own it and you've learned from it, and now you can do good with it as well. And it's all at your pace as well, so when you're ready. And I think that, like, obviously it sounds like you get quite a buzz when you help other people. It's quite a positive thing, and that's why we've really appreciated like having you on the podcast today and sharing your story, because it's a big thing to do. So yeah, I'd just like to like thank you for being so open and sharing some of the elements of your journey. And if you ever want to come and do another one, you're more than welcome to. Because I think with anybody's liver journey, like, you've just covered like briefly your journey from like, baby, childhood, teen, but there's probably so much as well, like, indulged in your story. Sometimes it is nice if you're like, oh, actually I'll share this bit about myself or my journey. Like, you can do that as well. Thank you for sharing. We wish you all the best in your next chapter, and obviously fingers crossed for your GCSE results and what you're hoping to achieve, and obviously fingers crossed that the results you're waiting for on your health are the ones that you want to hear. Please keep us updated, and no matter what, obviously you know where to come, and we'll obviously have a chat and support you on whatever pathway comes your way. So thank you very much.
That's okay. Thank you for letting me do this.
For those that are listening in, it's lovely that you've joined us on CLDF Chatter. I am the Young People's Officer, so if you do need any support from listening to this podcast, or there's any concerns that you may have or advice that you might need, please do contact us on Hive, our online Facebook group chat, or you could email ypo@childliverdisease.org, or alternatively you can call us on 0121 212 3839, and we look forward to hearing from you.